The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
All right, joining us now to discuss the crypto markets further is Stephen McClurg, CIO, Chief Investment Officer at Alternative Assets Manager of Valkyrie Investments. Welcome, Stephen, to the show as always. So, again, we saw resistance at $40,000 yesterday. What's your analysis of Bitcoin's price swings this week?
Hi, Christine. Thanks for having me. Well, first of all, we have Evergrande in China, which is a company that we've expected to blow up, and I've expected to blow up for almost a decade now. The Chinese real estate market has been in a bubble for a very long time, and Evergrande has really been the catalyst there. So, but I think that contagion is going to be largely contained with China injecting about $18 billion worth of money into the banking system to help stave that off.
This all raises a larger question, though, which is what does Evergrande have to do with cryptocurrency, right? I mean, it sort of makes sense that these fears of contagion might affect the stock market, but why is it affecting Bitcoin as well? Bitcoin, in theory, is supposed to exist somewhat independently of these cycles.
Yeah, Bitcoin and other crypto assets, really are a risk asset, just like any other type of small cap currency or commodity or even equities, as you mentioned. So anytime that there's a major risk off play in the broad markets, you're going to see any type of a liquid asset being sold off along with it. So we do expect to see these kind of swings in the crypto markets, just like we did in March of 2020 when the broad market sold off as well.
Mm-hmm. Any headwinds coming from the Fed? They're expected to have a decision released today. Also, Washington is dealing with a debt ceiling in mid-October to mid-November.
Yeah, I think that there might be a little bit more choppy waters here to come in the next few weeks with the debt ceiling talk. It's a proposal has passed the House, and now it has to go up to the Senate, which means that 10 Republicans have to vote in favor of this in order to avoid a filibuster. I think eventually, as we always do, there's going to be a lot of noise in the press, and the debt ceiling will be appeased, and we'll move forward with their lives as normal. But it will cause some choppiness in the market, and we should expect to see further choppiness in the crypto markets until then.
Do you expect to see some Fed tapering?
Yeah, I think tapering is definitely on the table. It's a split vote at the moment. Yeah, that's a really good question. When is always hard to predict, but probably in the next 3 to 6 months, I do think that we'll start seeing some Fed tapering. Just given where the economy is going in the U.S. and with inflation fears that are hitting.
So one thing that's been interesting about this week and Bitcoin's fall is that if you look at the price charts, it's kind of like a sea of red. I mean, most coins are sort of following in tandem with a few exceptions. I mean, what's that about, right? Like in theory, again, these should all be sort of very different financial instruments. They all have different functions. But why are we seeing such an extreme correlation between just so many different types of tokens across the board?
Yeah, that's right, Emily. And what we've seen over the last few weeks has been, sometimes the DeFi crypto assets have been going up while cryptocurrencies have been going down, while protocols have been acting independently of both of those as well. And that's the way the market should work in normal times. But again, with the risk off situation with China and with Evergrande, and even with, as you mentioned, talks of tapering, talks of debt ceiling, all risk assets do tend to act the same. So it's just been a across the board risk off move. Now, I think as these fears start to subside, we'll see the broad markets coming back. I do think that Bitcoin, the way that it looks right now is based on the futures market. We should see Bitcoin going above 50,000 in the next month or so, and that should carry the rest of the crypto market with it.
Mm-hmm. Just looking short term again, the options are set to expire at the end of the week. Billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin options will settle this Friday. So, how are you positioning your investments in this amid this volatility?
Well, we've actually been buying the dip this week, and we'll continue to buy dips as they present themselves. Options expiry this week is actually a double witching, which usually comes with a lot of volatility. So we're looking to position ourselves on Friday as we are through the weekend and next week to continue to buy dips. But our long-term and even midterm view on Bitcoin is very positive. So we're looking at buying as much as we can until then.
Mm-hmm. Also, last month, CoinDesk learned of a surprise regulatory filing by the Nasdaq to quote list and trade shares of the Valkyrie XBTO Bitcoin Futures Fund. So, how many Bitcoin futures ETFs do you have right now? What's the status of that?
Yeah, so we have two of those ETFs on file at the moment for futures, along with several other firms that have also have filings. At the moment, I really can't comment on when those could possibly be launched or what our status is. But we are very positive that that things will likely move forward in some way. There's very constructive conversations at the moment to try to work together to bring something.
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming you're focused on Bitcoin futures because of comments made by Gary Gensler, chair of the SEC, that he's more comfortable with putting together or approving a Bitcoin ETF that is based on Bitcoin futures. So why two? And it seems you're one of the first to in the pipeline, at least, to be considered for this. So it might give you a first mover advantage, or at least some advantage.
Yeah, so we listen to comments from the staff and from Chairman Gensler very closely, and when we think that there's something in the tea leaves, so to speak, then we take action. So we filed two very different filings based on two sets of comments that we have heard and dissected. One of them is what's called a 33 Act S1 filing. The other one is a 40 Act N1A filing. Both very different structures, and but also very very similar in the fact that they hold Bitcoin futures. So we saw these two structures as two different approaches to try to conform to what Chairman Gensler had publicly said, and really one's a hedge against the other, so to speak. So that if
trying to cover all your bases, Stephen.
That's exactly right.